Hi, my name's Penny, and this is PJ Knits. Welcome to my podcast about knitting. I live in Central Illinois, and I am a knitter, a vlogger, and a YouTube podcaster. Thanks for joining me today. It is Wednesday, October 14th, and in Central Illinois, your weather report is partly cloudy this morning, 55 degrees. But it's going to go up into the 70s today and get sunny and windy later today. So we'll have to batten down the hatches, as they say, after the sun comes really out and deal with the wind. But I'm going to enjoy the day because it's one of those last days of warm weather I think we're going to have. After today, it's going to kick into like the 50s, 60s. So it won't be as warm, but as my husband often says, you know, in the springtime, 50 or 60, we'd be putting on the shorts and opening up the windows. So it's all relative in our mind, and we'll just deal with it because that's what we have to do. Here in Central Illinois, the trees around me are still pretty green, but there are some oaks that are coming red and falling a little bit. Our burning bush out front is starting to turn red, but it's not, just a little bit. And there's a lot of squirrel activity out and about, hiding things in the grass. And I had one a couple of weeks ago who was digging up its peanuts out of one of my flowers that it had put into. So that flower is now gone by the wayside, and I'm not sure where the squirrel's at. But anyway, that is what's going on in Central Illinois. And let's talk some knitting. Specifically, let's start talking about sweaters. I know a lot of you have already had your sweaters on, and I have too, because it has been chilly. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about my thought process when it goes into change of seasons on sweaters, because I really, now that I'm retired, I really want to be knitting more sweaters and wearing my knits and showing that I'm a knitter when I can go out. Now, with winter coming on, I'm cold. I'm even cold in the house. So it's highly likely that I'm going to be wearing sweaters inside this winter, and I'm definitely going to go out as long as I can and do some walking up and down the street, if nothing more, and I'm going to have some knits on. So I want to start being better about planning my knits out. And this is so funny because there was a discussion, and it was in my mind, and it's funny how a lot of knitters, you may think of something and then you read something on Instagram or in Ravelry and you're like, hey, that's exactly what I was thinking. And so this same point came up recently with an Instagram person that I follow and follows me, and we chit chat back and forth. But wouldn't it be nice if we as knitters were like a season ahead instead of waiting until winter to knit everything so that we can wear it that season? And so my background is such that I worked retail for a long, long time, and it was in the stationery and gifts and china department, supervising and buying for that department. And we were always way far ahead. You know, as soon as July came around, we were putting out Christmas ornaments because that's what you needed to do in order to sell those all before Christmas decorating actually took place. So I think it would be nice in our knitting if we thought that way too. If instead of thinking about what we want to knit to wear tomorrow, why don't we think about knitting what we want to wear in the next season? And I started to think about that a little bit a month or so ago. I think the problem is with me, and maybe with the others, that when I start thinking about that, I'm already too late. So I want to get better about that going forward. And all I can do right now is to start right now and get it moving so that I will be better prepared when it gets really, really cold. And so that's kind of my thought process to start with when the change of seasons is coming. And hopefully we'll talk about it again in January for the springtime. But since we're already into fall, I want to get moving, and I wanted to share some of my process, my thought process on my knits of what I want to do. And first of all is inspiration. You know, it used to be when we could go out and shop the stores. And for us here in Central Illinois, we had a really great, I thought, not because I worked and bought for them, but we had a great department store that you could get stylish clothes, shoes, bags, everything to go with your outfit or whatever you were looking for to wear. And they went away. But there was a time when you could go to those places, and even if you weren't in a smaller city, if you went to Chicago or Indianapolis or St. Louis, the larger stores they had, or even New York, if you were there, you could go to these department stores, Macy's, Nordstrom's, and get really good ideas of things that were in ready to wear on the rack, of what was coming up that was more of a style that someone in the Central Illinois or Midwest, or even of our types, as it would be, I would say, of where you live, of things that you could actually wear, and gave you a sense of what was in fashion, let's call it that. So there was a time when you could shop those looks. Now, certainly, there are some catalogs that come through. I watch a lot of QVC. Now it seems like that's my online department store to see what is fashionable, what colors are in. And I don't get I get a lot of inspiration from that. But right now, I think my inspiration for knits is really coming off of Instagram, of designers, of people wearing things. And I love it when people actually put their knits on and photograph themselves. So you get a sense of what they're wearing them with, what they look like. So it's so hard, I think, for us to get that inspiration we used to get in ready to wear, because certainly what's going on now, it's very hard to get to see what's going on, to be able to go out, and at least for me, to go out and touch and shop. And I'm also not a great shopper, because I prefer to get my shopping through a catalog, through online right now, and through the TV, certainly. So looking for inspiration, I think is really, we're getting a lot of that inspiration, certainly for our knits, from Instagram, I am, and perhaps Ravelry and other places, whoever you may be following. So I just want to give you some thoughts as to where to go for inspiration. Now, in between my career as a buyer and into motherhood, I had a job at a place in Peoria nearby, and it was called Off the Bolt. It was a division of Vogue Fabrics in Evanston, Illinois, who have wonderful, wonderful fabrics, and they still do. Off the Bolt went out of business some years ago when I finally went to, and then I went to the college to work. But anyway, at the time, the manager of Off the Bolt, Nancy, gave me these thoughts of my wardrobe, certainly of sewing wardrobe, because Vogue Fabrics and Off the Bolt, they get end of the runs of designer fabrics. And I learned then about using good fabrics. And I learned certainly from Nancy at that time on how to build a wardrobe. And Nancy was the perfect person to be a mentor, because she would go to Chicago, and she went to New York, and she would go to Europe and on trips, and she would study the fashions that people were wearing. She certainly did that in the W magazine. She would look at those things. She would pore over the sewing pattern books and pull out patterns that went with what she was seeing for fashion for the Central Illinois or the Midwest woman. She would then take those patterns and this fabric and create these outfits that were very, very much like what she was seeing in the higher end stores, in fashion, or just in fashion in general, and she would duplicate them. And I always she helped to build this inspiration, I think, in me on how to build a wardrobe of certainly then my sewing, how to duplicate or knock off a design or a design certainly that we could not afford. And when we were done, we had something that was pretty timeless that you could keep wearing. Certainly there were some things that were trendy and that were just on the moment that we did, that she did, but she helped me cultivate that, where to get inspiration from. And so I just want to share a little bit of that in this episode with you, of how I kind of have stolen or learned or taken those ideas, and how I would like to continue going forward to incorporate these into my wardrobe. Because in the past with working, I didn't have time to do these things that I was want to do, let's put it that way. I certainly, I dabbled in it, but I never got all the way to the end of it. I didn't get it all done because there just wasn't time. It was easier just to pull something off the rack, put it on, and go off to work. I didn't get to develop that style. And that's really what I'd like to do going forward in my life as it is now. And I've told people before, right now my life is blue jeans. And so, again, I think it's okay to incorporate your knits and other things into the blue jean lifestyle, because that's what mine is. Now, if yours is something else, you certainly can incorporate it into whatever your lifestyle is right now. But mine, for the foreseeable future, is going to be blue jeans, and that's kind of how I want to proceed from here. So, with all of that background information, I hope I still have you, and we are going to get to knitting. But I just wanted to share kind of where I was coming from and where I would like to be going forward in the next season on my knits. So we'll start with a couple of things. And this partly you will see is because I did dabble in this so much earlier on. Really what I start doing, and let's just use it from going forward now, of where I started. A few weeks ago, what I did is I got out my binder from a long time ago. It was in 2014. And I had created some things. What I did is I found at the time, there was a website, and part of it came through Pinterest, and you could see where people had taken outfits and styled them. And going back to this thought process that Nancy steered me toward, I picked out pictures that I thought that I would like to, and not necessarily will all of these look good on me, but that I could incorporate into a wardrobe. And what I was looking at the time is how I could incorporate some of the pieces or some of the things that look like knits and incorporate the knits. And so what I created was a page on my Pinterest, which was called 2014 Knit and Fit. And I have shared this with you before, but here it is again, because these were really, the ones I'm going to share with you today were all mostly fall, winter. And these were designs that I thought I could pick apart and pull together pieces, maybe in my wardrobe, maybe new, maybe knit some to make them. And so I'm going to share this page with you to start with. Whoops. And these are some of the looks that I was looking at. Now, specifically right now, in my thought process for fall, winter, I'm thinking about a couple of things. And the first one is this one right there. It's a gray sweater with a gray and black scarf, a red turtle or something, a red purse, black shoes. Okay, and then the other one is a simple one like this, a little green scarf to knit. And then this one up here, it's a brown look. It's really like a poncho over it. And then this one here, I used a little bit last year. I had a turquoise scarf. So these were some of my inspiration pictures that I wanted to go to for this season to think about knitting. And I'm going to share some of those down the road. But for this one here, I'm looking at, what I did is I took this gray sweater that I would like to duplicate, and I'll show you the yarn next time. But I have a pattern, and it's called Storm Mountain. And I have some yarn, and I'm going to see if I can't start by duplicating that particular outfit. So that was kind of my starting process, because I had this binder and I have these photos that I want to think about for fall, winter, that I want to take the styles, and they've already done the work for me as to what can go with that, because that, I think, for me, has always been the hardest thing. I've been a t-shirt and jean person, you know, on the off days. So to incorporate something like that into my wardrobe, I need help. And so I'm looking to these pictures online and photos on how to style them. So I just want to kind of share my binder with you, and I have other things in here. But I'm going to, I'll share more with you as we go through this process, if it's something that you want to do. Now, I also have in my little handy dandy things, this is where the catalogs, sometimes if, with the fall catalogs, if they come, if you get any catalogs, if there's any particular looks or designs, I thought this would be fun. And I just pull out the pictures, and just for this one I pulled out for color because of the yellow and the grays and the yellow. And the others I pulled out for design. So I just paste those, I don't even paste them, I just put them in my little binder. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a binder of things that I would like to work on for my knitting. And just an idea, and just to give you a thought as to where I go, where I'm starting to go and building my inspiration. So I did that, got my binder out, then I started a pad of just things like in this particular one for how to incorporate that into my wardrobe. What are the things that I need? I want to do Storm Mountain. What I need. Do I have a purse to go with it? Do I need to look at something? And so I started making a list of things that go with that outfit that I could incorporate, knock off those particular ideas. So I started a little pad so I'll know what I'm looking at. Because I think, for me at least, I write things down. I make lists. And that's the only way I can keep track or keep my mind from going another direction. Or what was I going to do? What did that need? So I make a little list of things that I need. So I have it. So I have it nearby, and kind of gives a little outline of where I'm going. Now, certainly something else that I have and I have talked about before is I have a folder called My Sweater Project Fall Winter, and when I find a pattern, or I have been by a pattern, usually in the past I see a pattern, buy a pattern. Now I'm favoriting it or making it into a bundle on my Ravelry page. So I'll put it under pullovers or cardigans, instead of going off and just buying it and stacking up this all in my folders. But certainly what I have done is I started putting patterns in here to fall winter that I like, and things that I would like to knit for the winter. And then I'm starting to kind of put some ideas on the pattern sheets of yarn that I have in my stash, because I really want to use my stash yarn. And so I've got a couple, and then I just write it on there. What yarn? This is Mad Tosh Lapis. I have 1,800 yards, and I need 1,400 yards. And this is called Friday Anew from Ankastrick. And she does what they call a contiguous sleeve, set-in sleeve. And this is a designer that I want to look at. I want to see how she, what that contiguous sleeve is all about. So I put that in my folder, because as I go through this process for the winter time, what I'd like to do for me and for you perhaps is to explore other designers, explore different ways of knitting sweaters, top down, bottom up. We talked about that last fall, and I ran out of time to do that. How people, how designers are different or alike, because I'm finding a lot of designers that I'm looking at sometimes and we'll talk about it on this sweater I'm wearing, when they get to the ribs, they're incorporating something that Easy incorporated. And so there's some things that I'm like, oh, hey, that's what they're doing as well. In this book, I have a cardigan, which is Timber, which I have. This one is by, no, I'm sorry. This is called Stillwater. It's by Marie Green, Olive Knits. And I have some Shelter yarn that I bought for something else last year that I'm looking at knitting. And look at that. Goes back to my blue jean lifestyle. A denim shirt, blue jeans, and then Stillwater. And not only do I want to knit this because I have knit one of Marie Green's sweaters, but I want to see it again. I want to look at her design aesthetic. But in January, she's going to be one of the teachers at January Thaw. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to delve into her style, more of her designs. I certainly was happy with my soundtrack that I knit. So those are just a couple of, as you can see, of sweater patterns that I have and different techniques for designing, different designers, and I want to delve into those this season. So those are some couple of things that I am going to share with you all as we go through this process, or as I go through this process of knitting, and of knitting sweaters. And certainly not just sweaters, but of styling my wardrobe, my knitted wardrobe. So I hope that you will stick with me in episodes to come as we go down the road on this. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to talk to you this morning about sweaters. And now let's get into some other things. Mail call. First of all, Grocery Girls Knit have a website, and I could not resist this new mug. It is, it was on the website, and I could not resist buying it. It's the right color, everybody, you know me. And it fits well. It keeps this warm, my coffee warm as well. I had maybe an hour and a half, and it was still drinkably warm. And so I had to have that. But the fun thing is, when I got it, I also ordered a sticker from them so that I could put it on my water bottle, and I got 2 of them. So I got that. But the cute stuff included in the package is a little thank you card, which I think this is just adorable, everybody. Just a little thank you. And then they also included in it a progress keeper that says Grocery Girls, and in the right color, guys. So that was some fun mail call that came in. And then on Caddy Jack's Knits, I said I wasn't going to do it. And they sucked me in. It's a year-long KAL for a Pearl Soho pattern. It's Pearl Soho's pattern is free on their website. It's the half triangle, and half triangle plus half triangle. It is a huge blanket when you're done in 2 triangles, and it is done out of their linen quill. Now, I have chosen these 2 colors for mine, but I'm not 100% set on this one. I am 100% set on this one. And again, this is their linen quill. This one is green turquoise. This one is bright flamingo. And I'm not 100% sold on it because on the colors, because I think maybe I want a little bit closer to blue on this. But anyway, those are my 2 colors together. And I'm asking for suggestions too as to what you all think. Shall I go with it? It'll be perfect. It's 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, and 15% linen. And it's called Linen Quill after the website. And it takes 3 of each. So what do you think? Shall I it's a long time knitting on this. That's a lot of stitches, so it's going to be a long while before I get to the change. But what do you think? Should I stay with the 2 colors together, or should I go a little bit lighter turquoise or a darker teal? You tell me. Now, it's going to be big, and the reason I'm doing this too is because I always wanted one of those wraps shawls, and I have a hap or two, and I have a hap shawl in my mind to make big as well. I have a black one that's in progress, but it's black and it's a little hard to knit right at the moment. But anyway, I wanted something that you can throw over you and snuggle up and get warm, throw over your legs, throw over your feet, or use as a blanket. So I'm leaning towards staying with both of these, but I'll see as I develop. And this is, again, this is a knit along with Caddy Jacks, and it goes it's a year long, because the plan is for everybody to wear them to Rhinebeck next year, which I'm not going to Rhinebeck, but at least we can do a home Rhinebeck edition and wear it. So that's what I'm going to be knitting this winter. And this is going to be a nice knit to knit in public, because it's all garter stitch, and so it's a lot of knitting, and it's meant to be calming, and I think sometimes you need some calming right now. So anyway, those are my two colorways that I got from them. And then next up, as you all know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away some time ago, and I got on the train of wanting to knit a sweater in her memory. The Notorious RBG. This particular pattern is by Park Williams, and it's called the Notorious RBG. Here she is in it. And so then what I did is, as soon as she passed away, and I was on what can I say? I was on that way. I was like, I couldn't be stopped. I bought the pattern. I ordered my yarn, Ultra Alpaca, which is what it is knit out of. And I ordered in black, and I have a cream that I ordered, but it fell down over there, and I'm not going to traipse over there to get it and show it. But anyway, I got my yarn, enough yarn to knit it, and then I thought, oh, sometimes you just jump too quickly, and I'm still going to knit it. I just don't know when. Is it going to be a winter project? It certainly is something on a bright sunny day that I can knit on. So I've jumped on the Notorious RBG train, and we'll just see when I cast on. But I have the yarn, and I'm all set to go on that. So then let's talk about books and bags. So first off, books. Nomadic Knits, Michigan. My main reason for purchasing this book was because Chris Ruzian, who does Briar Rose Fibers Yarns, has a pattern in here that was knit out of her yarn. And so because I've all talked about it before, that I love her yarn. I'm wearing one today. This is called the Petoskey Cowl, and it is knit out of her Sonoma yarn, which I do not have any, but because it had a design out of her yarn, and because it was Michigan, a place that Debbie and I had wanted to go this last spring but didn't make it because of COVID, I thought it'd be the perfect time to get it. Now, it has Michigan designers, Michigan fiber arts, Michigan yarn companies in here. It talks about those designers and or yarn companies, dyers that live there, and it's just a fun. Not only does it have some really some cool designs in it, but this one I love on the back. But it also has some beautiful pictures in it. This is a Henley that I think is so cool, that would be perfect for a jeans type person like me. It's just a beautiful put together book with some beautiful pictures of places in Michigan. And it talks about different places in Michigan, and that's what I really, right now, I really am liking and into seeing what the rest of the USA has. And they're doing a different area every issue. And so I can see me looking definitely back and picking up some more of these books. And what I'm doing is not only, like I said, not only are there some really nice patterns in it, but I'm learning a lot about people. I'm learning about different places in Michigan. This one here is called Escape to Michigan. It talks about that Michigan's comprised of 2 peninsulas divided by the Straits of Mackinac. So it talks about their state parks, their national lake shores. It's just a good read, kind of geographically, for some stimulation. So I really recommend Nomadic Knits. And I'm going to look at, and I understand that they have subscriptions. I'm going to look at maybe getting a subscription to all of them and learning about different parts of the USA, because I think certainly in our retired life coming up, we would like to go some different places and see different parts of the United States that we've never been to. Montana, Wyoming, Washington. I'd love to go and see other places like that. So that is in our plans for the future as a retired couple. And I'm hoping that this Nomadic Knits will help out. And then my other find at my local yarn shop, the Fiber Universe, in the bags situation, is a bag that Trappings and Trinkets came out with. And this is going to house my notorious RBG sweater. And look at this bag. This is the largest one. And this is Nicole from Trappings and Trinkets. But these can be found at my local yarn shop, the Fiber Universe in Peoria. And it's a huge bag. It's going to be a great zipper bag for my sweater. And it's going to house my RBG sweater when I start it. And look at the inside. And I love, Nicole does a great job. She has some really cool fabrics and puts a handle on all of them, a zip, which I love. So that's what my sweater is going to go into once I start it. And just feeling it makes me want to start it up with that. Which we're going to talk about whips next. And I take a lot of flack on my number of whips, because as you can see, all of a sudden I'm like not going to do RBG, and now I want to do RBG and put it in my bag if nothing else. So I take a lot of flack off that. I do not apologize for that. I don't like to get bored, and half of my thought process, way back when in the beginning of this podcast when we were talking, half of my fun back in when I was sewing was to take the pattern book, to think about the fabric, to see myself sewing it, to see myself putting the buttons, picking out the buttons, the threads, the things that went with it, seeing myself wearing it. That was the most fun. It wasn't the sewing of the project. It was the thinking about it and the process of what it was going to look like from start to finish. So that is kind of where my knitting is. I want to cast on. I want to see what it's going to look like. And maybe I'll put it away for a while. And I don't apologize for that. So with that in mind, this is another Trappings and Trinkets bag that I've had for some time. And what I have in it, this particular shawl is from 2017. I started it when I first learned about Espace Tricot and ordered the yarn. This is one of their free patterns. It's called Ace. It is a wrap and it is a lot of knitting, but this is perfect knitting for me right now. On the riverfront, I took it and I'm almost done with it. So, and this is my second one I've made. The first one I made out of a worsted weight. It was called Jelly Beans, and it was a white with beige and blue, and I knit it for hospice. So this lends itself to a lot of things. A wrap, a scarf, a hospice, one of those shawls that you want to give to somebody just to wrap them up right now. And this particular one, like I said, I had, when I first learned about Espace Tricot, when I first started watching their podcast and ordered yarn, and I started it in 2017. I think I probably bought the yarn then or the end of 2016, but I bought the yarn directly from them. And so this is Ace, and I am on my last repeat. I have one more of these to go. So you can see it's really super easy. This is a long wrap, but this is going to be perfect. Yesterday when we were at the riverfront, I had one of my shawls wrapped around my neck, and down around me over my legs, and it kept me perfectly warm. So that's what I'm liking about the wraps, is they have so many possibilities. Let me get a little closer. And again, this is Ace the pattern is by Espace Tricot, and those of you who know Espace Tricot, their patterns are free on their website, which I think is so super, super nice of them, and they have some great patterns. Now, my particular yarn that I'm doing on my Ace is 2 strands. It is a strand of Madeline Tosh Prairie and Cactus Flower, and this was a yarn that they showed on one of their first episodes, and I pounced on it because I love the color and it was different from me. And then a strand of Rowan Kids Silk Haze in 583 blushes. Now, the Cactus Flower, the Prairie, I don't think that Madeline Tosh is making that weight anymore because it's a light fingering weight, lighter than a fingering weight. I want to say that it's a lace weight yarn, but you certainly could do it with any kind of weight of yarn. You can hold the mohair together if you want. Like I said before, you could just do a worsted weight as well, and it'd be perfectly fine and very adaptable. If I do, I would like to do another one down the road, and I would like to make mine just a few stitches longer because this one is not as wide as I would like it. Let's put it that way. And yeah, it will block out, I think. But I think I would like just maybe a couple more inches on width on it. So I certainly think I will make another one down the road as well, because I like the knitting on it that much. And I have another mohair and fingering weight that I have in mind for that. And I think there's enough that I can make it wider. So that may be a spring project. We'll see, because it's kind of a springy color, I think. So that is the only whip I'm going to show you today, because I am really, really working hard on working just on that one whip, because I'd like to get it done fairly soon and move on to another whip again. So finished objects. I have just a couple of finished objects to talk about. First of all, we have continuing in the group, the Comforting Crafts. Yeah, Comforting Crafts. Say it slowly, Penny. Dishcloth knit along that is going through the end of the year that we're doing in conjunction with B-Wing Brittany, and I have just a couple to show that I finished up. This bright one, finished it up recently, and then had another one. This is a stripy one that we're doing, and we're trying to do 500 between the several groups to get to Brittany for El Salvador. So if you're of the mind that you want to knit some dishcloths and send them to me, you can message me and we can arrange to get them picked up. So did a couple of those. I can't knit on as many that I want to, because the yarn and the needles kind of hurt my hands a little bit. And it's purely because of some arthritis. But anyway, here's a couple of dishcloths that will go their way to Brittany eventually. And if thank you to those of you. I know Debbie and Annette are knitting some for me, and I know that Debbie's friend Helen is as well. So I do appreciate that, and Brittany will appreciate that as well. And we will meet up soon to get those to me. So and then I get to meet up with Brittany, who follows us, and we just developed a little friendship through Instagram, through knowing that we have a local yarn shop that we both can meet at someday, and then also through our friend Allison. So it's a small world in a big world, I think. So, and then lastly, I just want to tell you about the sweater I am wearing. It is the Super Simple Summer Sweater by Joji Locatelli. And she has a fall knit along that is going on right now, and I am participating in it. I had said that I was going to do Elton as well, but I don't think that's happening, because Elton really isn't in my plan right now, but I do have the pattern, and that is this one here that I am wearing. And this is 4th of July by Briar Rose Fibers yarn. It is kind of a worsted weight. This yarn is scrumptious. I did not realize how soft it was until I was knitting it. And now that I'm wearing it, I have to tell you, some wools can be a little scratchy, right? This one, other than undergarments, I have nothing on underneath it, and I could wear it all day. It is not scratchy and itchy. This is called 4th of July, and there's no colorway. And this particular one, her hanks come in, I want to say 500-ish hanks, and so maybe it's 550. And I used almost 2 for my size. This is a size medium, and I'm usually a 39, 40-ish, 41 bust in there. And I made it longer, and I just love it. It is so soft. This particular one, I have done some mods on it. I originally bought the yarn that it calls for here in red and white, and I think I will knit it again in January for spring summer, because it's really more, I feel like a early spring yarn for me. But this one, how she's placed the increases in the pattern, I really liked it. I was a little worried about where the arm would hit, but it was perfectly fine where the yoke came down. I loved the neckline that's on here, how she starts the neckline and the increases, and pretty straightforward pattern. I did, as I always do, and we'll talk many times to come, she tells you how many stitches, you have your stitches on the markers on a string of yarn, and I actually picked up more stitches than I needed. I want to say it was like 15 stitches, because as always, I need to accommodate for a larger arm. What I did on mine originally was, I did how I always knit, is I go down like 7.5 inches, and then I start the decreases for the arm. And what happened, I wish I would have taken a picture, but what happened was it was such a stark, when I looked at it, it was such a stark change on this arm that it looked, I didn't like it just looking at it. And when I put it on, I thought it was too stark of a decrease. I did the decreases, usually I do them like every other row after that, and it just was way too quick. And so what I went back and did is that I I went 6 inches, because the arm itself, the armhole, is not sucked up here like it normally would be. So because it comes down a little bit lower than your armhole, I waited till 6 inches, and then I started decreasing every 5th row. So it was less of a stark decrease. And if I can do one of these, it was a much better line, and I liked it much. It looked much nicer, and so I'm going to maybe change up how I am doing those on my future sweaters, depending upon where that armhole hits. And I just think it's a much nicer look. And then decreased about 10 stitches to get not as, and usually I go really tight on my sleeve, and I did not like that, so I left a little bit more opening. And I think just it looks much more of a nicer line in the sleeve. And so I'm very, very happy with the modifications that I made in my sweater on it. Made it a little bit longer, because as always I want a longer length in it, but certainly I am happy with it. Now on this particular one, I did not do helical knitting, and maybe I should have, but I liked it just the way it is. It really was a sweater that I knew that I wanted to just throw on and go out and wear. And this is perfect. It's perfect for this morning at 55 degrees, and it's going to be one that is going to get a lot of wear. And I'm thinking I might look into more of my yarns in that. So I'm loving this. Again, I'll just stand up a little bit so you can see. Here is the bottom. I love the rib. It has a nice split. And I made it, again, it's a little bit longer in the back than it is in the front. And it is just a sweater that I'm loving. And it's one of my first, it is my first sweater that I ever knit out of from Hohi's patterns. So I am loving the yarn. And again, the yarn is 4th of July from Briar Rose. And I know this weekend is Rhinebeck. And I know if you follow Chris on any of the platforms, I'm sure she's going to have some Rhinebeck deals. In fact, I know she is, because I saw that she posted that she was dying for some virtual Rhinebeck. And if you're able to, I don't know how Rhinebeck's working, if you're able to catch Chris's virtual video that she may have this weekend, tune into that, because she shows you some different things in her workshop, her yarns, and a lot of designs for patterns. So anyway, that's my finished objects for today, and I'm telling you, I'm loving this. Loving the sweater. Yarn plus pattern for me equals a win today. So super, super loving it. That is all that I have for you today. Next time we will delve into more sweater knitting. I hope that I gave you some ideas and some insight on how I kind of am hoping to plan my knitting wardrobe for winter, and I'm hoping that come the first of the year, I will start thinking about spring a little bit earlier. We have plenty of time. There is plenty of winter left. And so I hope that all of you will do some sweater knitting. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. I do appreciate the subscribes and the likes and just being here to listen to me ramble about my knitting. I hope that you are all safe and well, and things are getting maybe better wherever you are. If not, we have our knitting, and you can always reach out on Instagram or in our Ravelry group, PJ Knits. There's several different threads going. We'd love to see what you're knitting on. Talk about sweaters there. We're talking about Socktober as well. And I think next episode, in the next week or so, we're going to talk about Socktober, and as well. We'll be a part of the going forward, and maybe we'll have a shawl and tell as well. So until next time, be safe, be well, and knit on with confidence and hope through all crises. Thanks.